Dumelang re la amogela mo go Daily Thetha on SABC 1. Nna ka lebitso ke nna Nicolette wa ga mashine ngwana wa kwa Bushbuck Ridge Mapulaneng. Yena re tshwareleng lona lemi la matsogo ke seswa rone Andisa wa ga Kebashe. Now somebody says that chaos brings creativity, but at this point in time, a lot of people are feeling a little bit anxious about what is to come in the near future. We're talking about the dawn of the new norm. What does it look like? And we have invited our spiritual leaders to be able to help us understand gore na e lebelega bjang na. But at the same time, we want to open up the conversation. Re ba botse gore na, did we actually see COVID-19 coming? Did we see chaos coming? And if so, what is the way forward?
Ngibingelele emakhaya komncane nomdala igama mele dagami yawucadilisiwe kodwa uyazi ke ungangibiza uSheriff sithi singene endabeni namhlanje. A lot of people look bayakhala nje but yazini, let's cancel 2020 siphelile isikhathi sakhona ayiseke into esele. Abanye bakhala ukuthi ngempela who do we go seeking comfort, seeking understanding ukuthi ngempela what can we still consider or what can we salvage in what's left in the year. And abanye abantu basho ukuthi which voices have we not spoken to mhlawumbe ezosiza kulesikhathi sikusona. So ngithi ngicela kuwena be a part of the conversation. Sebenzisa social media yakho ngendlela right by sending us messages and putting in comments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. WhatsApp is corner, and you can send us a message on 072-316-1329.
And it's quite interesting, Melody, because with the economic well-being, with the political well-being, one of the things that Deepak Chopra has said is that we also need some level of spiritual well-being.
And of course, in this opportunity, we speak to someone who's going to give us a different aspect, because abantu abaningi don't know what is when you talk about an astrologist. We welcome onto the show today a lady by the name of Subhadra Devi Dasa, who's going to educate us, and she's from the Vedic and Vastu institution, where she gets to educate us on how it actually works. Of course, welcome to Daily Thetha this morning.
Good morning, how are you?
We're good, thank you. Thank you so much for taking time to check with us, Subhadra. We just want to firstly take a step back and get an idea of, for someone who doesn't know about what it means to be an astrologist, where does the school of thought come from? Can you please educate us?
Okay, so this is an ancient science which is coming from the old scriptures, and which is accurate based on a palm face and the scripture reading, and it tell you the calculation. After the calculation, tell you the solutions, and the rituals, answer all your questions, and of course have the solution of all the problems. So this is basically is very old, from the time the universe started, the world started, this astrology started. And it's coming from the old Vedas and scriptures.
Ms. Subhadra, did your community predict COVID-19?
No. I wanted to tell you something.
Yes.
From the spiritual point of view, the misery we experience, any natural disaster, tsunami, drought, flood, volcano, hurricane, global warming, flu, influenza, impact of the eclipse, and even the world war. This is a time to time is happening in our life, and we can't deny, or though we don't want these things, but this is happening all the time. And this is all because the sinful activities in the world.
Okay.
Actually, the Veda recommended, you know, the Vedas is the scriptures, is recommended the 4 regulated principles for the society, for the human being. The number 1 is no alcohol.
Okay.
Number 2 means alcohol or the intoxication, anything like that. Number 2 is no gambling or the bet. Number 3 is no eating meat and cruel activities. And number 4
Subhadra, sorry to come in there. You've just said something very, very interesting. Because we've seen in South Africa during this lockdown, the banning of sale of alcohol. We know that gambling was also not happening. Can we possibly attach this to the possible success of South Africa beating coronavirus?
Yes, exactly. That's why I'm trying to tell you this 4 point. So the last one, which I was telling you, is no illicit sex and out of the marriage life.
All
So you
right.
can understand these four things of what we are discussing here. The uh, the regulated principle. If the people are not human being are not following that, that's why with the sinful activities they started. There's so much murder, rape, and robberies, and people are beating the woman, and lots of violence and everything is happening. But if the human being all they follow this, all the four regulated principles, there is according to the scripture will be no harmony. The whole earth, the whole world, the water, the water sources, and the whole sky will be all purified. And the mind and the consciousness of the people will also, certainly it will change. It will change to the good. Actually, there is no end of the universe, like how the people they say couple years before in the 2012 the world is ending. Everybody was donating and all these things. This is all false
Doctrines.
rumor about all these things. There is nothing is going to happen. Let me tell you a very interesting thing which maybe you don't know.
Okay.
And that this age of Kali is called, we are living in the age of Kali.
Yeah.
Okay.
The current age of the Kali is 432,000 years, and we only completed 5,500 years.
Sure.
So still we are very in the beginning, and we still have to go 426,000 more or less.
Years of
to
age of
complete
Kali.
If I can ask, are you saying this is nature replenishing itself in this time and season? It's putting things back to order in how it should be?
You see, this nature is always teaching us that there's so many ways. But do you ever understand the people are understanding these things? Is every year there is so much disaster, so much tsunami, so much lava, so much flood, so much drought. People are not understanding. The consciousness still is not clear of the people. So those are, some people they're turning to vegan because they don't want the violence, and they are of course changing. The world is changing a little bit, but not too much. So there is no start and there is no end of these things. This will be still continue this way. This is only the time to send cosmic invitation to the universe and to welcome and abandon. This is only the time.
Do you probably have an idea of how we foresee the remainder of 2020, in your opinion?
Look, the 2020 is very challenging. Economically, of course, last 3.5 years is the problems, but it still will be, all will continue. All the business and all the daily activities, all will start again. Schools will start again, but just ending of this year. I am hoping, according to my calculation, after the 21st of June, after the solar eclipse, there is some chances to change a better way. Maybe it will take 2 months to 3 months. Things is going to change little at a time. Because so many people are uneducated and they don't use the senses and the understanding how to live their life. As we discussed previously, we need to follow the 4 regulated principles. And if the people follow this 4 regulated principle, you will see the world is changing. It's better way. There is always chances to...
Maybe, Subhadra, just to remind us of those principles, if we just go down them. The first one is alcohol, the second, intoxication.
Okay, the first one,
yes.
Number 1 is intoxication. Any kind of intoxication is a cigarette, bidi, the drugs, and all kind of things.
Okay.
The second, and that of course the tea, coffee, which is a caffeine, which is having caffeine, alcohol. This is all intoxication.
Yes.
The number 2 is a meat. Means the dead element body that is supposed to be more and have a sense and have a heart and have a love and have all the desire to live, but you're killing that poor animal and be cruel and act, that is also not recommended according to the scripture.
And number three?
Number three is no gambling.
No gambling.
The gambling on the share market and all this bets and all these things the people are doing. That's why there's so many gangsters are in the world. So much mafia. The number four is no illicit sex. That's why the people have the HIV, AIDS, and they have a serious dread disease because due to this dirty desires, the sex activities out of marriage. If you're married to one person, you will just be
happy. And spiritually well.
and happy.
We want to say thank you very much for taking time to speaking to us and educating us on your perspective and also your experience in the years. I'll look at the 21st of June very closely, to learn what will happen, because I'm very intrigued at this point in time. But also, Besmuya, from one dimension to another, after the ad break, with, of course, Ugogo Moyo. Now, Kancane, in her perspective, what is going on in the world. Let's take an ad break.
The traditional form of consultation is evolving. Izangoma have moved from only offering face-to-face interactions to reaching clients through technology.
The spirits Sabadimu they're not confined to one geographic location, You could be in South America and I could be in Papua New Guinea and I'd still be able to connect with them. Because it's a remote connection, it's a spirit connection. The messages that come through are things that I would not have sat down and guessed. It's literally not me channeling those messages. I am just passing on the message.
Personal sessions are now increasingly being supplemented by telephonic and video consultations.
I manifest people's illnesses, whether it's telephonic or face-to-face. I connect with people's ancestors, whether it's telephonic or whether it's face-to-face, So we are in an era where people are reconnecting with their cultural and religious beliefs, and they approach it with fear, just like their parents have approached it with fear. So it happens anyway, whether people are coming face-to-face or people are doing it telephonically.
And it has the blessing of the Traditional Healers Organization.
We have to move with times. There's no way that we still can think that the only measure, to help and support your patients would only have to be physical. We said let's rather also use some other mediums to communicate to patients.
Clients are also on board.
First of all, I ask myself, those people, I don't know them, but how do they know about my life and situation and all this stuff? But since then, they have helped me.
At times you find that someone lives far from their healer and they don't have faith in the ones nearby.
Despite the convenience, the Traditional Healers Organization cautions against possible cyber crimes and advises Izangoma to also connect with their patients face-to-face in the long run.
I mean, a small thing like ukuthi sangoma was someone being yombona manje noma ngihlele dining room ngathi ngikucingo ngimthinte ngimthole ngithola indaba zami ishisa futhi kanjalo. And talking about digitalization as we move into a generation that is moving now, kunomuntu who's been at the forefront of part of this evolution, which is Ugogo Moyo, who is a sangoma, is also known as a digital sangoma, someone who is able to give us the message and the story even though you are at home. As she speaks about how she deciphers dreams, she speaks about the African rooting and teaches also where do we come from as Africans. But at this point, ngicela ukuthi samukele uGogo Moyo onto the show.
Gogo Moyo, dumela.
Dumela. Dumela.
Le kae mama? Now, most of our African spiritualists in South Africa right now have complained quite a lot to come and consult, especially in crisis that we are facing right now. Is this a sentiment that you share?
Very much so. I feel our history has played a lot of a part in also showing the extremities of how much we're not included in conversations. There was a whole Witchcraft Act that existed and was written into the laws that was simply about any person who uses African belief systems or their practices should be arrested and is deemed as evil. So with a history like that in our country, that's why everybody else who is born into the conversation quickly shuns away from it because it's already deemed as evil without actually going into its merits. Right now, Madagascar has found one of the cures that can speak to the pandemic that we're experiencing on a global scale. But that's something that we have in our backyards as South Africans. We're not even fascinated by this fight, but to show that the government does not understand our value and what the superiority of the Karafarona, that's why we'll find a celebration coming from other shores and not from our own land.
But Gogo Moyo, perhaps maybe let's have a fair conversation because Kheru predictwa discuss tsa bola kapa tsa World Cup kapa tsa gore na World Cup re tla e wina na ba gona go lebitsa. So maybe is there a conundrum in terms of ba lebitsa neng na?
No, I think the whole narrative behind it is the kind of subjects we're called to.
Yes.
I feel that soccer is still going to play and there'll still be a winner or a loss or a draw, irrespective of whether I have spoken to that prediction or not. That is actually speaking to the belittling of what we do versus us as bringing a constructive conversation. Why were we not then involved in the development of the team as it was coming up? Why must we be called on something so trivial as the score? It shows that the placement of importance, that's why we are called at very insignificant times, and which party is going to win the election. The history shows which party is going to win the election. I don't have to be a Sangoma to know which party is going to win. So it shows the importance and the narrative.
And I can understand your frustration. Engzamuk understand now when you simplify the conversation is that, do you believe because of the Western influence, our spiritual values have now been taken and put aside? And if yes, what are our spiritual values at this point?
Certainly so. I mean, every single culture has their own set of rules. Once you're raised into a Pedi community, it's all a family, a Zulu family, even a Western community. All of you guys you're initiated into the world with the rules that you live by as that collective of people. But along the history of ourselves as Africans, we've always been taken away that what we are is lesser, and we're not smart enough, we're not light enough in complexion, whereas the power of who we are as a source of people is not within how we identify, but how we choose to live our lives. And that's why concepts like Ubuntu exist. They come from the fact that I can recognize that you are a person and you can as well with me. So we treat each other with the same value principles. I know there's something of value I can learn from you and vice versa with yourself. So by virtue of us being able to recognize ourselves as very powerful beings in Africa, and the fact that the world came onto our shores to marvel at who we are, it shows a great deal of how enriched we are as people. But every person has to go on their personal journey as to finding out, who am I? What is my surname? What is my clan name? And why is it important to me? Why should I celebrate it? It will be different for each of these individuals.
I mean, we live in moving times, and I say that ngoba ubutubuka indlela esiphila ngayo sihlala ku-internet. Majority of us, we are quarantining, sendlini, and all we're doing is utilizing the internet, which of course have seen you move to that space. Do you feel that other people who are practicing njengawe can judge you and say, ugogo Moyo now usekakhuluma nabantu ku-Instagram, she is belittling our system?
But that is also going to be denying yourself of the time you were born in. We weren't born in a time of making our huts with mud and clay. We found bricks existing, the technology of many different tools to build our own houses. We adapted to the change that we found existing into the world. So how, as a child who is now 32 years old, how am I going to deny the history of our country, of the world, and the innovation of technology leading up to where I am now? If I am smart, I'm supposed to use both the ancient knowledge as well as the modernity of it and merge the two and represent the conversation information. Because if we're going to be talking about African belief systems in its original state, half of the people that are listening to your show will not be interested. We have to repackage, much like how the shows that you're presenting today have been repackaged. You have to move with the times, but also work on the merits of why something exists in the first place. We're not trying to change it. We're trying to bring it more accessible to the people from where they are. There's many broken families where I cannot go to my father and ask about my lineage, but I can certainly go on the internet and search about Isbergo and where the surname comes from. But it's our importance for us to document our information and make sure that we actually make it available to people.
Gogo Moyo, just to say thank you very much. But before we let you go, just one last question. Yes, government, the ayali consult or ayali consulti, but South Africans can definitely consult you. How should South Africans be preparing spiritually for what is about to come in 2020 and next year, possibly?
Thank you for that question. I feel it's so very important because right now the world is resetting. Much like how our bodies, every 7 years, our body takes a new form. We grow, we shed the old skin and reform and build and generate new cells. And the world right now is doing exactly that. It just how happens that the powers that be that are more louder than anyone else's, which is more government institutions around the world, they are setting a new narrative in terms of how to financially move around in the spectrum of the world. But on a more personal level, this is the time that we should be taking to talk to our families, build new relationships in our families, reevaluate the relationships that we keep in our lives. If something no longer serves you, you must let it go, because where we're going, we can't be holding thing that never played a purpose or could add to the alleviation of the country that we're supposed to be building tomorrow. So it's self-care is important, self-life is important, and self-reflection. If you're going to be avoiding the person that's in front of the mirror, then you're not ready for what 2020 has to offer when we come back.
All right, thank you very much, Gogo Moyo.
Of course, the digital sangoma, they're sharing umcabango yakho. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. But also, we extended the conversation even further. We look at how, of course, numbers play a game, or as they say, numbers in the universe will impact you. After the break.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha. But the numbers don't lie. But tsona dipalo na di ringing now. When we're looking at the numbers of the universe, what are they telling us now? And could they have told us that COVID-19 was definitely something that was going to come and shake up the world? We're going to have a conversation with a numerologist. We have a numerology from the South African Institute, and she's been doing this for the past 25 years. Her name is Sandy Smith, and she's going to give us a breakdown. Numerology, how does it predict the future? Does it even predict the future? And how does it actually help us in terms of looking forward and planning the future? Sandy, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me, and hi to all of your viewers.
I mean, I'm already trapped and knocked out by just the discipline of numerology and you guys being called numerologists. Can you perhaps break it down for us in terms of what do you guys actually do?
Okay, so your name that appears on your birth certificate and your date of birth is what maps out your entire life. Every letter in your name has a numeric value, and that will define, each letter is every 5 years, then 9 years, then 14 years, then 18 years. And your name gives you a full analysis and description of who you are as a person. Your date of birth, the first digit in your day is how you wake up and do your day. The collective of numbers brings in all of your qualities. It will also define your career, your health, marriage, how many children you will have, whether you'll have twins. And then a lot of the traditional numerologists harp on your life path as if this is like the end of, if you don't understand it and you don't do it. It's part of the cycles, and that's what's important in numerology, because we travel in 9-year cycles. And so from our age of 0 to 9 is where we are getting a handle on life. And then in our teens, we've got the 1 in our age, 10, 11, 12, which allows us to become individual. And so it goes on.
Sandy?
Now, this can be the same for a company or a country.
Sandy, if I can just jump in there, I mean, we are going through a serious crisis. I mean, as the country, but not just the country, the world. And in your understanding, in 2020 starting in the way it has for us, does it signify anything in particular?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, globally, 2020 adds to a 4, which is all about structures, and I'm talking about all kinds of structures. It's based on earth, metal, and wood, so it's very nature-orientated. But the word structures is about businesses and governments and industries and how restructuring must take place. 4 is a number for restriction. And it's a time to actually consolidate and actually how we get back to very simplistic basics. Now, South Africa is born on the 31st of May 1961. Only in 1994 did we have a change of government. It didn't bring in a new birth name or date for South Africa. And currently our age adds to a 4, so it's relevant to 2020. And this would tell you how the outside, the doors would be closed from outside to come in or from inside to go out. But this is just the beginning of the massive, massive changes that are coming for the world, and importantly, because South Africa is on track numerically, globally, it has a direct impact for South Africa.
Sandy, I need you to go deeper with this one, because I'm sitting here and trying to understand, to say, is this good that we speak of? Was it bad? Should I be worried?
Well, I suppose you could look at it in two ways. First of all, structures are collapsing. So that's governments, that's industries, banks, airways, businesses that have had that kind of pyramid scheme at the top where all of the money travels to the top and never filters down to the bottom. So we are going into a time where capitalism is over and human capital is where we are going. So it's going to be up to the people to become entrepreneurial, for people to get in touch with their surroundings. It's about how we also look, because we all individually as countries closed off to the rest of the world, is to look within and to take what we have inside and grow it. It's not a time for asking for jobs.
Sandy,
it's a time for entrepreneurs.
Oh, is numerology, does it have any roots in African spirituality?
Well, gosh, I've got a lot of Sangomas who have come and studied with me because they are being a part of the future. If you look at their tools, it is based on earth, metal, and wood, and the things that they have. And it, oh gosh, is there roots in Africa? Numerically, when numbers were first being devised as the physical number that we write, Africa is where the number 1 came out of. And so it's kind of in that Mediterranean, Mesopotamia area where numerology emerged. And there we didn't have Africa, we didn't have Europe, it was just Mesopotamia. But we can go back to the Asians, because the Asians have a far, far deeper history and roots, and they have numerology is a very strong part of the Chinese history. But in Africa, I would say definitely.
Sure. And I mean, it makes me then want to ask, Sandy, I mean, as you know, the president is born on the 17th of November, which is 1952. Does those numbers play any part in our conversation in where we are as a country in this time?
Oh, absolutely, because currently Cyril's age adds to a number 4, and he is in the time of structures and restructuring and consolidating and restrictions, etc. So he is probably feeling this, and especially anybody else whose age adds to a 4 is going to feel this even more intensely. Now we put him at the top as he is the president of the country. His own position within the word president, as well as the president of the ANC, there's a huge problem coming here for him. If he doesn't actually ride the horse is going to ride him.
Sure.
So he's in an incredibly tough time. But he is a visionary because he's born in the month of November. So as for me, there is, if only he will talk to us more instead of making statements, maybe using the press and answering their questions and talking. But we almost feel as if we children in a classroom.
Sandy, perhaps maybe you can tell us what the numbers are saying about the future in just 2 or 3 words.
Okay, well, first of all, 2020 is minor by comparison. It's putting a new structure in place, and we have to go along with this new structure and be a part of the build of the structure, because 2021, which adds to a 5, the immense difficulties that are coming in 2021 is absolutely huge. And this is about corruptions and the breaking down of the powers that be around the world. So there's a lot of changes coming. For example, we will go to a one world currency.
All right, thank you very much, Sandy.
Thank you so much for taking time and just chatting with us here on Daily Thetha. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sure. And I mean, just sitting there and thinking about the numbers, look here, and we asked I mean, I'm really I'm fascinated. But also talk about fascinated, we talk about the science of Africa, we talk about the churches after the break, because sizofunda okuncane esihlambe besikhohliwe. Ngicela ungayindawo besibuye after the break.
And welcome back to Daily Thetha. A lot of things manifest within your soul. That's where you get a better understanding. And to have this conversation about what times are we actually living in, we are joined by Joshua Marara Maponga, who is a leadership development facilitator, life coach and speaker, and a very important voice here in South Africa because he's really worked in many spaces across business, social sector, cultural sector, and all sorts of them, to be able to give us an understanding. Baba Joseph, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you very much, and greetings to all of you out there.
And just to correct myself, I keep calling you Joseph, Joseph and Tatawa, so it really is Joshua. And I think just to get into our first question, Papa, what times are we living in right now?
We have converted a station into a house. The journey for the African child was not destined in European colonization to create a stable environment for the African when he is colonized and he is not free or she is not free to fully live her life and expressing herself in the essence of her being. And I think after our liberation struggle, we're tired to continue the journey and we relax. And when disasters like this come and they begin to force us to look backwards, to look forward, and etc., many people have become disillusioned. But I would want to say we're in a time of personal reflection, looking for solutions. And at your age, you cannot call me by my first name. I am Maponga, who means I'm Marara. That's my real name. But I'm a watcher from the future, living with you in the present with solutions from the past.
Okay.
Mr. Maponga, with that being said, I mean, we're speaking about...
I'm not Mr. Maponga. I'm not British. Don't colonize me again.
You can find another title.
Baba Maponga,
Mr.,
Baba. Baba Maponga.
Thank you.
Tingbuze and njoba sifunda nathi. In your understanding, I mean, a lot of people have felt attacked in different religious corners, but also the Christian community, bona kakhulu abazwe bashayekile. Akungisize mhlawumbe ngi-understand ukuthi ngempela in that situation for isonto and the Christian church, how do we advise and see their struggles?
Inkinga ukuba abantu basenkonzweni basuke baqamba amanga isikhathi esiningi. Besho ukuthi umoya wengcwele uyabahola ukuthi benze into zabo kanti wenza amarabish. You are a media person. Don't have to remind you indaba zeDoom. I don't have to remind you indaba zokudlutshani. I don't have to remind you of the disasters that were happening a few weeks prior to the lockdown on churches. And for all practical purposes, I'm not saying all churches are wicked, but there was lots of weeds that were growing in the name of the Christian church. And the collections of money and the abuse of the communities, churches have not found themselves collecting the resources of the community into community projects like hospitals, like schools, but ministers who own those churches were busy manipulating those monies for their own benefit. And right now, instead of the church being a solution, we are now part of the problem.
Baba Maponga, maybe perhaps just bring in a different narrative. Stephen Hawkins, another European, says one of his biggest fears, or said that one of his biggest fears was that mankind could be wiped away by a pathogen. Is this a real fear? Could we potentially get wiped away by this?
You don't want to take conspiracy theories for granted. There's a noise in the background there. I don't know what it is. There is a radio or something that is playing. I hear a huge echo in my head there.
Can you attend to that?
Okay, we will definitely attend to that. We do apologize about that. I think that, they'll try as best as possible to get rid of that echo. If you can perhaps help us with those conspiracy theories. You said we mustn't?
Yes, you must never rule out all conspiracy theories, because they are telling you that there are other conversations that are happening. Our weakness as a democracy is that our universities, our doctors and our professionals, when you hear that there's a coronavirus, for example, what do we lose from the University of West, University of Cape Town and UCT to take this bacteria and also go through it as an institution so that we can prove from life? Right now we're waiting for photocopied papers from America. I like what Magufuli did the other day, where they brought in the testing kits and he tested them on chickens and goats and even oil for cars, and those things came out positive. And now that for me is a traditional mind that wants to prove. So we are being misled by our educated community, which does not want to take the theory as it is being said and prove it wrong and prove it right, so that we can be informed to make decisions as a nation.
But Baba Maponga, my question then becomes within Joba's Pege, traditional versus science, and as if Katanisi, but in the use in South Africa, do you feel that we keep overlooking that element in our system?
The very question you're asking me shows that there is conflict. Traditional medicines are a science. It's only your European education that has told you that is not science. But even old woman in the bush knows how to cure and how to make your stomach run ekukata ngesintu. Is that not a science which you call anema?
It definitely is.
If a woman in the bush knows how to conduct a childbirth, and is that not child delivery in English? So we don't have to put a dichotomy. We need to take our witchcraft and our traditions and take them to the laboratory and prove them as scientists.
And then maybe Baba Maponga, you can even expand more on that. Now, what are some of the local knowledge that has transpired years that we can tap into right now in this crisis?
The first one, I can start with you right now. As a woman, you can take a set of beads, for example. When the moon sits, you wait. When you start your day of your period, then you put the first bead on your waist, on the loop. Then the second day another bead, and then the third day another bead, and the day your period stops, then you change the color of the bead. And for the next 7 days, you know that you are drying up. Then from the other day, then you know that you are about to start ovulating. Then the days when you are fertile, by the time your period comes. So when you see a traditional woman carrying beads around her waist, she's actually carrying the timetable of her fertility and her sexuality. But Christianity and modern people think that drinking contraceptives and swallowing tablets and condomizing is actually a better way of life. Meanwhile, the traditional method gave the woman power over her sexuality. She's the one who looked at the man and said, I'm not clean, I'm not healthy, I am ready, I'm not ready. There's no need for us to harass each other on sexuality because we're now trusting Western methods when we have indigenous methods of dealing with the basic things like contraception and using beads as a way of counting your periods based on your whole life is on your waistline.
But Baba Maponga,
how complicated can that be?
It's not complicated at all, Baba, but I think it's a question of where do we get this knowledge from? You know, if it's not passed down in families,
yes, ogogo nibashiye emakhaya nithanda ukutwitter nithanda uku-Instagram anifuni ukubhala content. When you're sitting with old people, take a pen and paper and download the information. When an old person has died, a library has died. Right now you sit around town, you don't want to go to the villages because anifuna ukudla imdorho, nifuna ama-yogurt nama-cheese nama-cornflakes. And your own parents are dying in the village, and when they die with the information.
And Jobibeka kanjalo baba, I think before we let you go, ngithi ngibuze Sisivala, what do you think when you look at the future esingayenza kangcono, really briefly, as abantu abasha kakhulu?
Plant a tree as umuntu omusha, and if you are planting a tree, it's a long-term process. Respect the roots where you are coming from. Those are your forefathers, and that is your history. Water your roots, and you'll be able to eat a fruit. If we plant vegetables, we'll never eat a fruit salad.
All right. Sisibonge kakhulu baba Ponga, siyajabula ngesikhathi sakho and neyimfundiso oshiya nazo njengoba sikhona. And I mean, so many rooted things that we have to consider that makes you wonder about the future. And Besibuya, we speak to a psychic who gets to give us a bit of her abilities, but also teaches on what does the future hold for us after that break.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha. If you just joined us, you have missed quite a number of things, but don't worry. Remember, on social media, we are definitely there for you to be able to see what has transpired. And right now, we go to a tarot reader. Her name is Tracy Mellabone, and she's going to tell us what is tarot reading, what are some of her psychic abilities, and what does the future look like, and the lessons that we're going to get from COVID-19. So let's go to Tracy. Tracy, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Tracy, I think let's jump straight into the conversation. What is tarot reading and how do you predict or see the future?
I think there's a bit of a misconception behind tarot reading because a lot of people think it's evil and it's bad. But if you really look at the history of tarot cards, it's actually based a lot on psychology.
Okay.
So tarot cards are based on psychology and they're just guides. But it also depends on the person reading. You've got to be able to pick up on things. So there's so many different meanings with the cards, but it's also what you sent. So.
And Tracy, I mean, just developing the conversation, I mean, a lot of people have marginalized according to race, you know, so people who would consult. Have you found that there's been a bit of diversity in your journey?
Yes, there has. I mean, everybody's open to it. A lot of people aren't. That's irrelevant. So it depends whether you're into it or not, or whether you're open to it or not. So a lot of people, like I said, a lot of religions don't agree with it. They think it's evil. It depends on what you're looking for as well. But it's, like I said, I mean, I've studied psychology. So for me, that's where the fascination, I've always done the readings as well. So the psychology behind it is actually very in-depth. So you go into the psychology of the cards. It's very fascinating.
Trace, before we get into the tarot reading, you actually showing us how it's done. One of the things that has really come up is the conspiracy theory of that the world resets every 100 years. We've seen it, you know, come through Spanish flu. Now it's COVID-19. Would the tarot cards read the same 100 years ago?
I don't think so. So You know what? It all depends. So for me, I do the tarot, I do life coaching, and I also do a lot of astrology. I base a lot of my stuff on astrology. And the thing with astrology is when you speak to people about astrology, they think of star signs that you read in magazines and stuff like that.
Yes.
If you really delve into planets, it's all energy. So the earth is energy. We all energy. That's where the whole vibration comes in. And you want to go into the planetary aspect of it. This year in January, we had a big, which is known as the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which happened, the last time that happened was about 33 or 38 years ago. And if you look into that, it brings a lot of diseases, chaos, destruction, things like that. And that's what we started at the beginning of the year. So that's what we're going through now. So it's a whole lot of things that you can take into this. So for me, tarot is just a small part.
Yeah.
Astrology is another big aspect and all of that. So if you can mix all of that together, you can get a lot of information from it. And that's where we go back to, you know, all the 100-year aspect. And I think that's also Mother Nature's way of basically sorting out the planet.
Tracy, I mean, we've watched and heard so many people feeling like spiritually they were not consulted in various things before COVID-19 actually came to life. Do you feel that you were not considered? Do you feel like the presidency or the government didn't consider you as a valuable point of conversation?
I think so, because you know what, again, it's one of those things that spirituality is one of those aspects of life where you either follow it or you don't. If you don't, then a lot of people turn a blind eye to it and they go, no, it's not. So from a spiritual aspect, a lot of the spiritualists out there, we've been picking up on this for about 2 years now. We didn't expect it to be this. We kind of joked and said it might be a pandemic or a disease or whatever, because that would be Mother Nature's way of clearing it up. We truly didn't expect this, but we knew something big was coming this year. We didn't think it would be this.
All right,
So,
Tracy, like kids, we are really waiting in anticipation for you to read the tarot cards. Please, can you tell us what you need from us so we can give it to you? Do we need silence? What do you need?
No. So what do you want to know? Do you just want a quick reading, a couple of cards?
You want to know what
the rest of 2020 looking like?
Yo, we are worried.
I need to know if I'm getting married, Tracy. It's the marriage in my life.
Are you getting married? Let's pull a card.
Let's pull a
There's
card,
an
Tracy.
offer of love coming there for you.
Money, Tracy, money.
No.
Talk to me about money. Talk to me about money.
Okay, well, you got the Empress card, which I pulled for you. So that's a really good one. And then we have money tree. So if you put in a lot of work, you're going to get it.
So let me be a responsible one between the two presenters and talk about the country. Are we going to survive? Are people going to have jobs?
Okay, so just from my point of view, from the clients, and I'm busy shuffling the cards while I'm talking to you, but from the clients that I've been working with since last year, and what I've kind of been telling them moving ahead is, unfortunately, I think for us it might just get a little bit worse before it gets better. Purely because we're going into the flu season. So I think that. And then also, we are now going to start dealing with, unfortunately, a lot of suicides. Abuse is going to arise. You know, it's obvious it's happening because of the shutdown. But that is just all part of what this lockdown has brought. And I don't think it's going to last forever. I was kind of picking up on June, July, and then October. And October being the time that people are really going to start getting back on their feet.
October, Tracy. October isn't like a whole lot of months to come.
No, but October is my birthday month, Tracy.
I don't mean no, I know, but I don't mean October as in the lockdown's going to end then. I mean, that's when we're going to start getting back on our feet and start focusing again. The thing, what I've been telling people is a lot of people have been saying, I just want it to go back to the normal.
Yeah.
There is no normal. We're not going to go back to the way it was. And I think that's the mindset people need to get into is we are going to move forward. It's going to change. And it's going to change. And if you...
Is there a way for you to be able to pull one card for the entire country?
I'm just going to pull 3 for you now. I'm just shaking. Shuffling, shaking. Listen to me.
Okay,
here we go. Oh, okay, here we go. We've got... I pulled 4. So here we've got, I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, we can.
I don't know if that's... Okay, so Chariot card is generally, that's a card of forward movement, which is where we're headed now. We have to move forward. A lot of people are focused on the past and wanting to go back into the past and wanted to go back to that normality, so which is not going to happen. To get through this, you're going to have to move forward.
Okay.
You're going to have to pick yourself up from where you are, which is the 10 of Wands, which is the burden card. We're all going to feel a lot of burden now, and I think that's why it's going to actually get a little bit worse before it gets better, because we're all going to be in this financial slump, trying to get through, trying to make ends meet, things like that. The Page of Swords, which is the card of young person, so you're kind of looking at somebody who's a young adult. So if you look at it from that aspect and from the way this is going, we're basically starting over again. We've got to start as, let's just imagine that we've left university, we've got to build up that structure again. And this whole Saturn-Pluto conjunction, that's what it's about, is breaking down structures that don't work. Anything that's not built on a solid foundation this year is going to fall apart. And we're looking at structures like banking, hospitals, schooling, things like that. So all of that, if you actually look at it, it's all changing, and it's never going to go back to the way it was. Then we've got Ace of Pentacles, which is the ultimate money card. So there's your money.
Yes. Tracy, look, I mean, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but luckily, we haven't run out of luck with you. And thank you so much for being with us here on Daily Thetha.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It was lovely to chat to you.
Look, what a journey we've been on namhlanje. Sambile, sabona abantu abahlukene, basifundisa ehlukene. It's what you believe in, it's what you hope in, but also, Nicolette, it's what we believe in for our country as Umzansi Africa. The future is there.
Definitely. Thank you very much for tuning into Daily Thetha. And don't ever say Daily Thetha doesn't do anything for you. Do tune in every Monday to Thursday, 10:30 to 11:30. Bye-bye.
Siyabonga.